Welcome to Adventures Gone Mad, your critical look at D&D books. I'm Kyle W., and I'm here with my favoriteest co-host.
Hi, I'm Kyle A.
Hey, Kyle, how are you doing now that everything in the universe is in the way of us recording?
Better, I guess? I guess I'm better? I guess we're better. We're all better.
We're better. Yeah, so this episode is a little bit delayed from what we would wanted to, but things got in the way of us recording. So what are you going to do?
Life got in the way.
We did do many things. One of them was Rose City Comic Con here in Portland, where we spent a bunch of time playing role-playing game.
Yeah, we sure did. We had a great time. We did. We played games we hadn't played before.
Yeah, so that's always my goal for cons is I try to sign up for I love D&D 5th edition, but I don't want to play 5th edition at a con. I want to play just like stuff I've never heard of or have never played. So that's kind of how I sign up.
And it worked out great. We played Daggerheart. Was it Daggerheart?
Yeah, so we played Daggerheart. That was my first time playing that game.
And I forget what the other two are named. I forget what that one's called. Morkborg. It was Morkborg. And then the other one was the science fiction one, which I don't know what that's called.
Yeah, we played Morkborg, which was a lot of fun. It's an OSR game where you just play as if I know that comparing things to Dark Souls is such a stereotype in gaming, but in that game in those games usually you play as like a person from the gutter that's just like awful trash. In this game you also play a person from the gutter that's trash. Yeah. So that's all I could think about the entire time.
Yeah, it was fantastic.
Yeah, it was so much fun. We were the group that we were playing with, we were laughing our ass off the whole time. We had so much fun.
Yeah, it was super great.
And then I got to play. You weren't there for this because you were, I think, dealing with your dog. But I played Mothership, which as we were playing, I've only ever played Mothership once before, and I realized as we were playing it was the Mothership scenario that I have already played. So I kind of had to just not metagame and sit back and let the person I was playing with make all the decisions. So that was fun.
Yeah, and I got to play the Marvel superhero game. I forget what it's called. With Multiverse something.
Yeah, Marvel Multiverse, I think.
And that was okay. I think the system itself was fine. I think the person we were playing with wanted to sort of, they wanted everything to happen rather than letting us sort of explain what happens. So it was more of like, oh, you meet this and you meet this and we do this and you do this. And it's like, well, when you say you do this, that's a problem. Because we should be doing those things. We as the players should have more control.
Yeah, that's a common error. I definitely find myself doing that. In a convention game, you only have, you're running with new people. I can totally see that happening. I wasn't there for that game. What did we play? I'm trying to remember the name of the sci-fi game we played.
Yeah, it's the same as Morkborg, but the sci-fi version.
Yeah, so we I'm trying to remember this was a while ago, so I'm trying to remember the name of the sci-fi version of Morkborg that we played. It's not Cyborg. You know what? If I figure out what it is in the editing of this, I will edit it in.
There you go.
Stop time.
Hey everyone, this is Kyle W. doing the edit. Just wanted to say that the game that we are trying to remember the name of, but we can't at the moment of recording, was called Vast Grimm. It is a sci-fi cosmic horror take on Morkborg. You can pick it up on itch.io at infiniteblack.itch.io/vast-grimm. That's Grimm with two M's, Grimm. I'm going to put a link to it in the description of the podcast. It is worth your time taking a look at because the book itself is just phenomenal looking.
Time begins to move.
But that was a lot of fun. Just kind of it's just those games are just pure fun. It's just, you're doing a one shot. It's normally I don't, in one shots, I just don't care about my character surviving or anything. I just do all of the stupid stuff that I want to do in D&D that I don't do.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of the point too. If I die gloriously, in our Morkborg adventure, I was kicking ass and taking names all because I had the sleep spell, which is pretty funny. And literally my character got eaten at the end and it was the best thing ever.
Yeah, you're not oh no, my character that's a piece of trash from the gutter got eaten. I feel so bad. It's that's So we also did a kind of weird thing for my birthday that normally I don't do. I'm not normally a birthday person.
Your 40th birthday.
Yeah, so I turned 40, so some of my friends here wanted me to actually do something for my birthday. So we did I did a makeshift event. I ripped this off from my friend Corey, who used to call his birthday CoreyCon. So I called my birthday KyleCon, and we rented out this giant castle mansion thing and played games all weekend.
Yeah, it was fantastic. It's exactly what we all needed. We all basically said, this is what we want to retire to. Like, we all want to retire to a giant castle and just play games all day.
Yeah, we played Shadow Dark all day Saturday. We played Monster of the Week, which is basically my favorite one-shot game. I love running that game. But yeah, it's just we just had a ton of fun. So I couldn't ask for a better group of people and a better 40th birthday. That was a great time.
Yeah, it was great. My dog got to chase deer.
Yes.
For the first time in its life, which is pretty magical.
Yeah, your dog protected us from 3 deer in the in the yard. So we're going through the final enemy, which is the third adventure in the Sinister Secret of Saltmarsh series. This was released in 1983, and it's authored once again by Dave J. Browne and Don Turnbull, with cover art by Dave DeLue. We have done a few things that released in 1983. We've also done Oasis of the White Palm and Horror on the Hill, which came out in the same year. So the most popular movie was Star Wars Episode 6. According to Box Office Mojo, the most popular album was Thriller, and the most popular video game was Miss Pac-Man at the time. So Kyle, before we kind of get into this, what is your synopsis of the final enemy?
My synopsis is, what if we just add more Sahuagin? Is there some way we can add more Sahuagin to this encounter?
Right. You go in a room, it's not just one Sahuagin, it's not just 5, it's not just 8, it's 60.
Yeah.
There's 60.
It's literally just Sahuagin. If we could just add more Sahuagin, if only there was some way we could add, we did add more Sahuagin.
Yeah, this is certainly not the ending I suspected from this module series. Since we're on the third one now, it kind of the first one, the Sinister Secret of Saltmarsh, is, it's like a twist at the end, like, hey, maybe there's something weird going on with these Lizardfolk, and then Danger at Dunwater is you finding out more about that, and then this is like dealing with that threat in a way, although you're not really dealing with it. I guess
the twist is, lizardmen are actually your friends. Like, you can befriend the lizardmen. Like, that's the twist. So Kyle, what is your synopsis of the final enemy?
I wrote down 2 things. I wrote down not the ending I expected, and just look at stuff and leave.
That's a good plan. Yeah, that is a really good plan.
So this is a little bit of a different setup for an adventure. It is technically a dungeon, and we'll get into this as we're going through the text, but it does essentially treat it as, it doesn't want you to go in and just start slaying things. I mean, we've had a couple modules like that will punish you for doing that, but this straight up says, like, the quest for this is, hey, you're supposed to go here and scout things out and come back. And if you try to fight all of the stuff there, it's not going to work out for you. Okay, so getting into the text of the thing, on page 3, I just wanted to point out, so this is the synopsis of module U1 and U2, which is the Sinister Secret of Saltmarsh and Danger at Dunwater. There's no way you would run this module without running those other 2. Like, it doesn't make any sense. It would be weird.
Yeah, I don't know why you would do that.
The only reason I can think why you would do that is you walked in and you thought the cover art was really cool, which you walked into a game store. And the cover art is really cool, so maybe that has happened.
But then you should read it and go like, hey, maybe I should run these other 2.
Yeah, it would be very weird. So it kind of gives you a synopsis of both of those adventures, just in case you forgot, or, just so you can have it on one page. And then it does have an important special note, which I wanted to go over, because this is the first time I think we've ever gone through an adventure that mentions what happened in playtesting. Do you remember any that we've...
No.
Okay, because this says, Important special note, the DM must recognize from the onset that this is a very dangerous module for the characters. Playtesting has shown that the mission can be accomplished by a courageous, thoughtful party whose members have planned their incursion into the fortress carefully. Equally, playtesting has determined that careless players who fail to plan ahead can quickly land their characters in serious trouble, in which case those characters are fortunate if they are able to escape from the fortress area alive. So I don't think we've had a module yet that said like, hey, in playtesting, like people got wrecked. Be careful.
No, this is definitely a first. And it's needed because, you know, if you just kind of go as the module is written and you're just like, okay, well, we're going to do our normal, you know, murder hobo selves, that's not going to work here. You're going to be dead pretty quick.
I do think that the author definitely realizes that they wrote a very different module. Because this is not a, hey, go into the, you know, you get your party of like 4 to 10 people and you go into the dungeon. This is like, you were essentially leading a small retinue or a small army with you. Yeah, so the author is like giving you the special note because they know that, hey, this is, in playtesting this happened, just so you know. People need to be smart.
Yeah, and he specifically says, like, you can get into an area where there's a bunch of Sahuagin, and they can call more Sahuagin over, and suddenly you're completely overwhelmed. So he recognizes that, you know, as I said in the synopsis, there's a lot of Sahuagin if you just add more Sahuagin.
Right. And overwhelmed, when you say overwhelmed, you don't mean like, oh, hey, there is, you know, 10 party members and there's 15 monsters. You mean there's like 10 party members and there's like 30.
Yeah, and then that 30 can call another 60.
Yeah, they're just going to keep flooding into the room. You know, that type of note, I feel like the one module that I have experience with something like this is in 5th edition is Curse of Strahd, because Curse of Strahd is written in a very like way that you're supposed to think this way about that module, and you're not supposed to walk into a room and be like, I'm level 5, therefore I will only fight things that are level 5. Like, these modules don't think that way. And this is like, I probably would just read the special note to my players if I was...
Yeah, right? Like,
I think they would have a better experience if you just read that to them.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, we've already kind of talked about in the previous 2 episodes, we kind of talked about how like this author is very wordy for things that he tries to say. But essentially he goes on to say like, hey, it would be really easy for the DM to just crush the party. Maybe you shouldn't do that as the DM. You should like try to make an entertaining game, which, you know, maybe that's a novel idea in 1983. I wasn't around to know what running games was like without, you know, that much experience. But yeah, it's just you know, be nice to your players and don't just try to crush them.
Which, you know, in 1983 I certainly had friends and DMs and games who are like, I win, I'm the DM and I win because I slaughtered all of you. And it's like, well, that's not a fun game. And then you learn to not be friends with that person anymore.
It's not. And it's kind of funny because the book specifically like doesn't want you to do that.
Right.
You know, my thought of like early 80s DMs, you know, and Gary Gygax and stuff was always like, oh, that's how it was. But when you read Gary Gygax's actual writings, a lot of times he's like, hey, don't be a jerk about stuff. And, you know, it doesn't seem like he wants you to do that. So that's interesting that people got that from this game. Maybe it's like the wargaming background that this came from. I don't know, but it's interesting reading the actual text and then hearing about that.
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about like you versus the GM before, and that was a much more prevalent thing in the early part of these games than in the, you know, now we're sort of like, no, that's not what we're trying to do. Like, it's not an ego fest for the DM.
Right, I'm sure it is for some DMs, but like as someone who's DM'd a lot, it doesn't make any sense to me because that's a war that PCs can never win.
Yeah.
Like there's what you know, that would be like to just bring up Street Fighter again, that would be like, you know, me turning on the, you know, all of the settings and just like killing you in one shot in Street Fighter and being like, yeah, I won, I'm so good.
Yeah, I definitely have had the experience of being in those games, and, you know, the DM's like, well, you should have figured this out. You know, this is something you should have figured it out. And you, at that point in time, you do feel like, oh, well, you could have made this more clear to me if this is what you wanted me to do. And, to me, it's like also, yeah, it might be my failure, but it's also your failure too, because it's a cooperative game. So if you didn't give me good clues as to what was going on, then, it might be my fault, but it also might be yours. I mean, it's a collaborative effort here. So,
right. I mean, it is, I think everyone is kind of responsible in that, right? Like, one of my pet peeves about DMing, about like RPGs is when people just think that it's all think that the DM is in charge of everyone's fun. It's like, no, everyone is playing this game together.
Yeah.
like as a DM, I have run like convention games where I didn't have fun because of the way that the players were. So it's not, it's not just one person that's handing out the fun, like sitting up on high and hoarding all the fun from everyone and just handing it out.
Right.
Like, Halloween trick-or-treats or something.
Oh, speaking of which, we need Halloween. It's Halloween, so yeah, we know I need to go get candy.
I don't have to deal with that.
I know.
So anyways, all right, so now we're on page 4, and it's talking about Saltmarsh, and it's telling you how to create Saltmarsh again, and it's copying and pasting the text on how to do it. You should have been at Saltmarsh multiple times at this point in the modules, so I guess it's great that they include this in case you don't have the other 2 modules, but as we talked about, like, there's no reason to run this without... I guess you could just take the dungeon, but that's not, like, gonna work like other modules, For example, for White Plume Mountain or for Pharaoh, if I was like, you know what, this doesn't really fit, but I like the dungeon, I'm just going to take the dungeon and put it in my game. You could do that with something like Pharaoh. You can't do that with this adventure.
No. I will say the one redeeming quality is the picture on page 4 is really good. And it makes me go like, oh, okay, now I sort of see what they're thinking about with Saltmarsh.
Yeah, it kind of looks like a really lived-in town. It kind of looks like a Wild West town to me. And there's like a stray dog in the street, and
it looks like a coastal town in Europe to me.
I think the reason I'm thinking about it is a Wild West town because the center picture is it's like a tavern with the swinging doors that I just associate with Westerns. But there's a lot of characterization in that. There's, people walking through the streets, and that is a really cool
There's
picture.
A dog, Kyle.
There is a dog. It is very cute. But at this point, you should have all of this stuff for Saltmarsh. So,
agreed.
And I do think the directions for creating Saltmarsh are really good. Like, I like that it tells you to just think of a small South Coast English fishing town in the 14th century. And if you're a history nerd, you probably know what that means.
I do.
All right. And then it does tell you where the hex actually is. There's a quick note here also as well that says, when we get into the actual mission on page 5, there is a note here that's like, hey, you might need to adjust this to the absence of the lizardmen if they got destroyed in the last module, because there is a continuity that could happen.
Hopefully they didn't do that, but yeah, it could happen. Also, there's a thing with Oceanus, and Oceanus might not be there. So you're totally helpful sea elf friend.
So essentially the mission for this is a very different setup than the other modules that we have gone through. The mission here is not, hey, go to the Sahuagin, because essentially you are trying to assist the Lizardfolk with taking back one of their ancestral homes that they got kicked out of. And my assumption, I was like, oh, well, the final enemy, of course, that's going to be like you go into the dungeon and you kill them and you're good. You kill the boss Sahuagin and it's done. No, this is like, hey, there's an army of Sahuagin and we need you as adventurers to go scout and tell us how many there are.
Yeah. And that's really important as the DM in this adventure that you want to impart to them, that like you're not here to kill all of them, you're here to scout things out.
Right, which I would be interested in that, but some players might, not be, hey, I want to be the hero, I don't want to be the guy making the map.
Yeah.
So this is like a really new thing, which I guess, I can't fault them for trying something new, especially, this is 1983. We're still people are still figuring out, like, that's why I'm so obsessed with this era of modules, because like people are still figuring out design and what to do with this game that was made that is not like any other games.
And they have 4 different objectives. So they need to accomplish those 4 things, and they can do those 4 things, and then they can leave. And if they don't, then they don't, basically don't get the the reward, which is, considerable, 10,000 gold pieces. It also says that you'll basically get 12 lizard men and 2 officers, and then 6 Marines, and then the party of adventurers. Like that's what makes up your small task force.
Right. So you have like a small retinue of people with you.
Oh, and of course the idea is that like you do all of that, and then the main strike force, which is all of the humans and elves and everybody, lizard men, are all going to go attack the fortress.
And then it says basically 12. So 12 Lizardfolk plus 2 officers. So that's 14. So 12 warriors and 2 officers. So that's 14 Lizardfolk total. And then you will be sent a squad of 6 Marines. So 6 like humans, I'm assuming, or people from Saltmarsh. And then Oceanus as well is going to be with you if he's still alive. And it actually says like the town, because Oceanus is like, it talks about like, hey, he talks about, hey, maybe I should go get the sea elves, and the town council says they're going to send a messenger to the aquatic elves so that so Oceanus can go with you. So you have like a small retinue of people,
right?
And these are level 3 to 5 characters. So these are like we're getting into the like you can actually do stuff portion of D&D,
but not a lot of stuff to manage. There's not a lot you can do at 3rd level.
Yeah, 5 is a lot more reasonable, but still, you're managing. The DM might be, I would personally just be like, here's the stats for all the people you guys run them, but if the DM's running it, that's a lot of people to deal with. That's a lot of actions in combat, if combat breaks out. Granted, this version of D&D runs really fast, but, I'm thinking of it in 5th edition terms, but that's still a lot of things for the DM to run.
It's a lot of rolling.
Now, you did mention the objectives, and I just want to talk about those a little bit. So, the 4 objectives that you have are determine the strength of the Sahuagin force, how many warriors, lieutenants, barons, clerics, etc. are present. 2, locate important areas within the fortress, e.g., where are the warriors barracked, where are the officers quartered, etc. 3, discover any significant defensive measures, where are the traps, etc. Discover how advanced are the Sahuagin preparations and when they might mount their first attack. Those are your 4 missions. So this wants you. The text wants the adventurers to look into a room and be like, the DM to be like, hey, there's 4 warriors and a baron and a lieutenant, and for the players to write, okay, that's 4 warriors, a baron, and a lieutenant. And like kind of keep track of that stuff. It sounds like that's what this adventure's design is trying to get you to do. And it does say like the reward, you at minimum have to do these 4 objectives. And it does also mention that where you're going, the Lizardfolk are familiar with because it used to be their home, but it is slightly different because the Sahuagin have, at least the Sahuagin deity Sekula has sunk the bottom of this into the ocean. So
they've made renovations.
Yes, they have made renovations. They have made extensive enlargements and alterations to the lair.
Yeah, with the help of the god, which is kind of cool.
So that's kind of like the twist, is that the players aren't going to know that, and the lizard folk aren't going to know that. When you get there, it's going to be slightly different. The mermen know the location of the Sahuagin. Yeah,
so if the lizardmen aren't there, then they do all this stuff.
And also in the back of the book, there is a map that the Lizardfolk can give you, which is, I think, is one of my favorite things in this module. Page 48 in the very back, it's the lower level. It's like a map the Lizardfolk have drawn out of what they think the lower level looks like. Because they haven't been there in a while, so it's slightly different. But it's written to be like Lizardfolk drew it. There's like little lizards on the map.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah, I think it's one of my favorite maps in here. They also have like the upper and middle level, and the map is slightly wrong because of all the renovations. So there's like a little tension in that you're going to get there and it's going to be different than what you expect. And then it goes over the reconnaissance party. So the player character is Oceanus. Oh, the pseudo dragon. We forgot about the pseudo dragon. You might have that with you if it survived. If it survived Sinister Secret of Saltmarsh. Then there's 6 Marines with you as well. Of the lizard folk men present, 14 lizard men, 2 officers, and 12 warriors. So yeah, 14 total. Okay, so next I would like to talk about page 7, the journey. It talks about getting there on a ship, and it talks about the Lizardfolk maps. There's an encounter here with like an octopus, like a giant squid attacking your ship, which I think it's a very tropey encounter that I think people expect, but it just seems like very skippable. I would skip this if I was running it.
Yeah, I'm not sure what this really gives you. There's no... We can talk about it a little bit later, but I don't... Yeah. There's also this whole thing about, well, you could just walk there rather than use the... You could just walk there rather than use a boat. And I think that is... You should definitely strongly suggest that they do not walk there.
I've noticed reading these modules in this era that the authors feel like the dungeon needs to be hidden in some way, or it like doesn't count as a dungeon. And because you're just walking there, I feel like the author felt like they had to put some sort of peril there, otherwise the dungeon isn't hidden enough, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I never really thought of it that way, but you are exactly right. That is a good point.
Because a lot of these adventures, I think the only adventure that we have read thus far that is like, hey, just start them at the entrance is... White Plume Mountain. Because White Plume Mountain was like, yeah, I mean, you can walk there if you want, but, like, you could just start them here. It's fine. That's the only, like, every other adventure wants to hide the entrance of the dungeon. Like, it feels like you need to, like, it needs to be a hidden thing. It can't just be a thing it can't just be this location that you walk into that anyone could. So it has to be hidden by something, and in this, it's a giant octopi that tries to kill you. And then it talks about, like, hey, if you leave your ship, the Sahuagin might attack it because they're all over the place. So basically, like, it will punish you if you don't carefully plan where you put the ship.
Yeah, and it's also, they talk about how the Sahuagin are night creatures. So you really want to do everything during the day because at night, they're going to have the advantage. So, for instance, like, they're going to probably attack your ship at night if you don't anchor it far enough away from the fortress. Like, it's that kind of stuff. And if you've got the lizardmen with you, they tell you that. They say, like, yeah, Sahuagin are allergic to sunlight. So we want to do everything during the day. And you want to hide everything during the day. And, like, you want to rest during the day and do things at night.
Yeah, and I did want to bring up something, just one thing about the trip to the marshlands that I thought was pretty interesting. So... It says, like, there's a 30% chance any water taken from the marsh will, unless boiled first, cause a serious disease when you drink it. And you have to basically hunt your food and eat, like, wild berries and stuff. Wild berries, fruit, and other vegetation are 50% likely to be poisonous. Druids and rangers who can identify plant types will not be subject to this chance. So it's like another paragraph where we don't have... perception rules in the same way that like current games have, and we don't have skills at this time in the current, like, so it just cause it's just some weirdness, like, hey, we all eat berries. It's like, okay, the druid is fine, but you all
right,
like, by the rules, which is silly. Obviously, like, right. If I was running this, I would be like, hey, druid, you realize that your fighter is about to eat a poisonous mushroom,
right. Or like the druid's like, hey, I'm gonna go find all the things because you guys are knuckleheads and have no idea what's poisonous and not poisonous, and there's lots of poisonous stuff here.
Yeah, and we just don't... It's kind of funny, like, looking at this stuff, we don't have the rules to facilitate that, so there's, like, this giant... Well, not giant, but it's a whole paragraph that just if you ran this rules as written, which I don't even think that concept existed at this point, it would be, like, you would end up with something a little silly. I just wanted to point that out, because... sometimes when it calls out rangers and druids specifically, I always want to see what it says, because usually it's something weird.
Yeah. So
for the marshland encounter table, don't really need to go over it. It's what you would expect to see in the marsh. There is a black dragon.
Actually, just to go back a little bit, this is if you travel in the marshland. Like, you can just travel all the way to the fortress on a boat, which is the suggested way to do this. But if you so happen to want to subject your players to, and they're just totally for, like, we're not boat people or something, then you have to deal with all of this nonsense of, like, the water and the berries and there's 2 pages of how you deal with the marshlands. And so now back to the marshland encounter table.
Yeah, and it does say that like the Lizardfolk are comfortable with this terrain, so they might suggest that as a way of going through things. So maybe they try to convince the party. But regardless, the marshland encounter table, it has what you would expect in a marsh. There is a black dragon. It is a young black dragon, 40 years of age. It's just flying by and is there to scare the players.
Yeah, don't. It's a black dragon and you're 3rd level. Don't mess with it. Just don't.
The most interesting thing on this table is a friendly 8th level human ranger who is named Axel. It just, tells you all the stuff he comes with, and it says if Lizardfolk are with the party, the encounter will not take place. Axel will sight the party before they see him, and anxious not to associate with lizard men, will conceal himself until the party has moved on. So it's like, it is the most interesting thing on here. You can't get it if you have the Lizardfolk with you, which this is another example of like part of the design is what you miss.
Yeah.
I think that like adds to it, because it's like interesting to know like, oh, hey, you rolled the ranger, but because you had the Lizardfolk, it's like it's a world building and rules at the same time, I guess.
Yeah.
It makes the module reactive in a way that I like. But it is a little unfortunate that I think he's the most interesting encounter, but if you have the lizard men with you, he doesn't show up.
And you really kind of want the lizard men with you for the rest of this module, so... Yeah,
so and essentially his design intent is to assist you if you don't have the lizard men. You'll get this level 8 ranger who's chaotic good ranger who's going to help you.
But he's not going to do the encounter with the fortress or anything. He's not even going to lead you to the fortress, but he'll help you.
Yeah, he will not, however, not accompany you if you're on your way to the fortress. So basically he'll help you through the marshlands. All right, so now we get to the actual island where things are located. I do like the description of the dungeon island. It does say there's a description of like all of the seabirds have fled because of the Sahuagin. They fled away. So you're on like this island that kind of seems like it's lifeless in a way. And it does tell you the lizardmen are with you. They'll know about the Sahuagin aversion to daylight, and they'll recommend a landing. They'll recommend a landing in the ship's jolly boat. Kyle, did you know what a jolly boat is? I had to look this up.
I do not.
So a jolly boat is another word for dinghy.
Oh, okay.
It just pulled this, I think, from a wiki. The jolly boat was a type of ship's boat in use during the 18th and 19th century. So it was the ship that they used to ferry personnel from the ship to the shore, or like if you're doing something else that you just need one person to leave the ship and do something, you don't need to like dock the entire ship and deal with that docking process.
Right.
So yeah, it's basically a dinghy, and I don't know if that is a European word in America, a British word, and in America we would call it a dinghy. But I just, I was reading that, I saw jolly boat, I was like, what is that? It does also note as well, like you'll see this in more of the descriptions of the actual fortress, but it describes things as like being under construction, because the Sahuagin, they didn't just move in and go like, we live here now. They are like changing everything about this fortress.
Yeah, including, as we said, their god is helping them, so they're doing some major renovations.
I just, as we're like going on, I just, wanted to note the author's style of over-explaining, which might be probably a good thing. I would rather over-explain something than under-explain something in a D&D module. But this author has like a very wordy way of talking compared to the other authors that we have read. And that was part of the reason we wanted to read this, because we were curious what this is the, an adventure from the UK TSR. So it's a different group of writers.
Right.
It does basically tell you the top of the fortress should be like very like scary and eerie. So it tells you to like kind of work that into the descriptions. Where is this thing? It does talk like there's this whole paragraph about what they're armed with.
Yeah, I mean he again, like the lizardmen, if they're with you, they're like, yeah, just make sure that we do all of this during the day. Park the boat away from there. There's all these rules about the Sahuagin seeing the boat at night versus during the day, and like there's lots of rules about all those things.
So the thing I was confused about, because this is like so all other factors apart, this is a difficult adventure. To make the Sahuagin more dangerous by allowing them no weapons from the onset would make the adventure a suicidal one. So I was like, wait, they're more dangerous if they don't have weapons? That's weird. But basically what it's saying is, if they don't have a weapon, they use their foreclaws and bite attack from the monster manual. So like, it's a rudimentary understanding of action economy, but one Sahuagin's going to get 5 attacks.
Yeah.
And it's going to be suicide. So basically he's saying like that paragraph is a little weird because it's basically saying like run the Sahuagin like slightly inefficient. Like they have a dagger and they're going to throw the dagger before trying to close in instead of having them not all try to do their claw and bite attack, because then you will annihilate the players.
Oh, that's the paragraph at the very end. And you sort of, doesn't he say something like, oh, they want to fight with honor, so they use weapons or something like that? No, I guess he doesn't say that.
It does say, the last paragraph does say that they're like very tricky and they'll try to use like tactics to their advantage.
Yeah.
But the author obviously understands that if you have 10 Sahuagins and they have 1 attack, that's very different than if you have 10 Sahuagins and they claw you 4 times and then bite you each. They're just going to be like a blender that you're feeding a party through.
Yeah, especially, these are only like, there's 3rd level characters. There's 3rd and 4th level characters in the character roster at the very end. I thought like, oh, well, maybe they have a bunch of 5th level people or a couple of 5th level people. But there are none. There are no 5th level adventurers in the back. So you don't have any 3rd level spells, which is interesting. We'll get to that later, but yeah.
Not even Theodore Dobbins. He's only 4th level.
Yep.
Okay, so yeah, I don't. Underwater adventuring, page number 12. So it just talks about. This is going to talk more about like the actual mechanics of underwater adventuring, and this is like a little bit of a. I don't mean it in like a D&D pun way, like a trap, but like this is where the adventure kind of lost me, because essentially the players don't have a way naturally. Only Oceanus can swim in the water.
And the lizardmen can swim in the water.
And the lizardmen too. They're semi-aquatic.
There's a couple of magic items in the other modules that will give you some, but water breathing is a 3rd level spell.
Right. And there's room number 18 in the dungeon, which has like a bunch of, I think it's like potions and stuff to help you do that, but it's possible that you don't find that, which is like, I guess your mission is to scout things out and you have to figure that out as a puzzle. But I don't know, do you think that makes the module better? If I was running this, I would be tempted to just be like, here's a mushroom, you eat it and you can breathe underwater for 24 hours.
I think that like the only way I would run this would be at the very beginning when they're back in Saltmarsh, is hopefully Lizardfolk are there, or someone says like, hey, so it's all going to be underwater. So if we're going to scout all this, let's figure out what we're going to do for water breathing for everybody. And so then like have the players try to figure out what they can do beforehand. And if they're really struggling, have somebody give them some solutions. I think it's a fun thing to try to think about for players, especially if players have been playing for a while and they realize they don't have a 3rd level spell for water breathing and, all these things. So, but yeah, I'm also tempted, like you said, just to give them something that gives them water breathing.
I think now that you've stated it out loud and I'm thinking about it, I think the change that I would make, instead of just being like, here's some mushrooms you can breathe underwater, I think I would have the council tell you that that's going to be a problem and that you could figure it out before you leave.
Right.
So that's in the player's mind, and like they solve the problem instead of the DM just being like, here's some whatever, eat this, drink this potion.
Yeah, I mean, I like the idea of players trying to figure out the solution, but I also understand that like maybe your players are low level and you don't have like a magic item, inventory, you know what I mean? You can't just go to a shop and buy a bunch of, water breathing potions per se. You can have them try to figure it out, but at the same time, it's like, oh, well, maybe you go back to the council because you don't really understand what's going on, or the council members finally tells you like, oh, well, hey, maybe you could go to the next town and do something. I don't know, something. I mean, I like the idea of the players trying to figure it out, but I also don't want to make it the whole game session is them trying to figure out how they can water breathe.
Yeah, I don't want you to sit in a room talking about how you're going to breathe for 2 hours.
Yeah.
It is an interesting design to me that you basically have like a retinue of people. You have different soldiers and they can do different things. So it is, I think allowing the players to make those decisions based on the environment. Like, oh, hey, we know the humans can't breathe underwater, so let's maybe have them watch this room upstairs while like Oceanus goes and scouts out. Like, I think the intent was to differentiate that, so your players have to make that decision, and it feels like running a small army, which is what the design wants you to do.
Yeah. The problem is, like, you know, if you're only sending 1 or 2 people down there and they get discovered, you know,
they're dead. Yeah,
they're so dead.
Yeah, I think the problem is that this is a potential. This is the type of thing that is a potential trap that the DM walks into, and then like this is the type of thing where I run a game and I'm like, man, I didn't really think about that before I ran this game, and now I would have done it differently the second time I played this. Like, this is the type of that would have hit me out with that.
And the other thing too is what you really don't want is, you know, you're separating the party, so to speak. Like you're going to end up separating players. So it's like, well, okay, so these 2 players who have characters that can breathe underwater, or maybe, you know, these 4 people, because there's like, I don't know, you're supposed to have like 10 people or something like that, or 8 people. So let's say you have 8 players, and, you know, okay, so 4 of those characters have water breathing stuff, so they get to go do stuff, and then the other, you know, 12 people or whatever just have to sit around and do nothing. It's like that doesn't sound like fun to me. Like, are you going to go to another room while you go to it's just, it doesn't make any sense.
Is an interesting way to use the characters, but like in play, managing that many people, managing all of your, you know, your tiny little retinue is going to be somewhat annoying. Oh yeah, I mean, I've always said that like this version of D&D plays way faster than the current version, so that does help. Because it, you know, with this, it's like, hey, you know, you go in the tunnel, it's 80 feet, you turn to the left, it's another 40 feet. Whereas like if I was running this in 5th edition, I would be like, you know, okay, what is your perception?
Right.
What is your movement speed? Okay, you're going down. Wait a second, how does underwater, like, it just runs fast. This version of D&D runs faster than the new versions of D&D. Keying out the encounter table, there is a encounter here that I want to call out, encounter number 6. So a 4th level female cleric from area 34. Oh, also there's a note. It tells you where all these monsters are from, and it says basically like, they did this in the previous 2 modules, but it's basically like, hey, if they kill this, remember that, you know, this is a shark from this area, so you remove that in the later area.
Right.
It's using the technology of the encounter table to give life to the actual, like, what the people in the dungeon are doing.
Right.
But this is a 4th level female cleric from area 34 and a chieftain from area 23, so they're different areas. These 2 are lovers who are seeking a quiet place to be alone together. So they're like, yeah, it's monsters, but they're just like hanging out and like being lovey-dovey on each other.
Right, they're making out.
It's such an interesting encounter that we, compared to the stuff that we normally see in these modules.
And like you encounter them and it's like, well, we kill them, obviously.
Yeah, it's like, would you feel, you know, you've probably killed like hundreds of Sahuagin at this point in these 3 modules, and you get here and you're like, oh, they're capable of love.
Right.
That's, I didn't think about that.
Yeah, of course they're little romantic, so they have to make baby Sahuagin.
Yeah, they actually can love each other. Interesting. So I stopped and I was like, what? Wait, what? I do like that motivation for those characters, but it's very, very atypical from what we've seen thus far in these modules. We have another level 1. We have another trope that I see in these adventures, a gong that is an alarm device that warns everyone that you're coming.
Yeah. I mean, I guess I do want to say before we get too carried away with this whole thing is that, like, basically the first level is not that bad. There's not much going on there. And and one of the reasons why it's not bad is because it's not flooded.
Yes.
So, because
the flooding is only the bottom part.
Right. So even though Sahuagin are amphibious, like, they prefer to live in the water. So the idea is that, like, this has not been flooded yet, so they're still working on it. And it's a fairly easy level to sort of clear out and look at. And then it sort of is going to become your base of operations in a way, or a place that you can go rest. Because the lower levels are going to get much more difficult, and those are the ones you're going to need water breathing for. So just in general, that's how that's going to work. And I think that I like that idea a lot. I like the idea of, like, okay, so this is a very dangerous module. So if you figure it out, like this first level is not so bad. There's a bunch of stuff in there that you got to clear out. And this is going to be where you go to rest, because especially during the day, like if you do all your stuff during the day, the Sahuagin aren't going to be compelled to like want to run up to the first level that doesn't have any water during the day and fight you. They're going to be like, okay, well, we're going to wait until night and then we're going to go up there and see what's going on, because that's where you fled to. And then hopefully they're not going to find you because you've left and gone back to the ship or something before the night happens. And I love that mechanic. The only thing that I'm like, that he doesn't really like say that the author doesn't really tell you that's kind of what you should do. It's something you should figure out. But I kind of feel like,
right,
since this is the DM is reading the module, like he should really sort of like tell you that's what he wants how this should sort of run. But yeah, that's like a little bit of a complaint, but I actually love that idea.
Right. And the way that the author writes, this would be something that he would spend a paragraph on saying, hey, do this.
Yeah.
So it's like I would say the author like didn't think about it or just decided not to include it, but this author does like to explain things to you.
Yeah, that's why I pointed out, because I think it's a little surprising he didn't say that. But that when I read this whole thing, I was like, oh yeah, that's definitely how you want to run this. You want the players to figure that out,
right? And one of your objectives is to determine when the attack is going to happen, but it doesn't give you like when the attack is going to happen is like sometime soon after this adventure is over. It doesn't give you an exact, it's not like it's going to happen in 13 days. You only have 13 days of rest. But yeah, I wanted to point out the alarm device.
Oh,
we
yeah.
keep seeing that.
Yeah, we've seen that.
I mean, that's even in Baldur's Gate 3. Like, there's the goblins that play the drums to call the other goblins, but the way it like really telegraphs it to you. They're running up to the drum. They're going to start playing it. Do something about it. So we still see that today, but
yeah. And look, that's
a trope that they love.
I think there's only like 5 Sahuagin, just like nothing in this module.
Yeah. And by the way, we're kind of go through this. We're not going to go like room by room like we kind of like to do for other modules. We're just going to kind of note stuff that we see, because the way that this is written, there's a lot of I guess empty space that you go through. That's just
Sahuagin. No, it's just Sahuagin. You're going through things and it's just a bunch of Sahuagin.
You see more Sahuagin. Hey, you have to count all those Sahuagin. The next page, 14, there's more like descriptions of any of these rooms that you go to. It talks about how like there's pickaxes and construction working tools, and it should be pretty obvious to your players that the Sahuagin are making modifications.
The one I do want to point out, so you see like a guard post, there's a chieftain's quarters. My favorite is 5, the barracks, which should really tell you, like, you can't tell this to the players, but it tells the DM something. The barracks area will eventually, when the level is flooded, house 60 warriors. So there'll be 60 Sahuagin in this room.
And they're currently quartered in area 60.
Yeah.
So they're in the bottom part of the dungeon. They just don't like being...
They're in the bottom part of the dungeon, but soon these 60 Sahuagin will be here.
What is that, 124 clawed bite attacks? No, 140?
Yeah.
I do like in page... on the next page, the storeroom, there's like... The author throws a little bit of shade at PCs. So there's a storeroom, and it says... If a pedantic player demands a count of the items in here, give some arbitrary though reasonable figure. There's nothing of particular interest or value here. So it's like someone's gonna ask you, like, when you go in and you're like, oh yeah, there's some rope and some animal hides and some nails. They're gonna be like, how many nails are there? I want to sell them.
Right. Look, those leather belts might be worth something.
Is it this where Elmo? Yeah, Elmo's a slave.
Yeah,
right?
Elmo's a slave. That's the most interesting thing in this whole novel.
So yeah, the most interesting thing in this is on page 15, room number 13, the slave pen. And this is like the next development in this adventure. Like, this is the next... You're unlocking the next part by going into here. Essentially, this is where they're keeping the slaves, and they're using the slaves as like forced labor, because the Sahuagin are horrible evil creatures.
Oh, yeah, and then they eat them when they die from exhaustion.
Yeah, so they basically work them to death and then eat them. You do meet Elmo, who is an emaciated and elderly man who is dying. He is the sole survivor of a party of adventurers which penetrated the lair some months before. So this is another, we've had a few adventures here where it's like you run into adventurers that went into the dungeon before you had died, which is like a trope that I'm discovering that I kind of like a lot. This also made me look up another fact that I learned. So I was like, when did Elmo debut in Sesame Street? So Elmo debuted in Sesame Street on May 15th, 1980, 3 years before this module. So I was like, you know what? Is Elmo, is that like a known name? I know the Muppets were popular in the 80s.
I mean, it's a name. Like Elmo is
It is a name. Saint Elmo's Fire, of course.
It could also be a nickname for Ernest. Elmo.
I didn't even know that. That's funny. I did run into the Muppet.fandom.com wiki, which has a page for Sesame Street character debuts that has been frequently updated since 2008.
Okay. That sounds like something on the internet.
I do love that exists on the internet and that is being regularly updated. So if you're listening to this and you've updated the first appearance of Sesame Street characters on the MuppetFandom.com wiki, I appreciate your hard work. All right, so we talk like a little more about Elmo. So he's emaciated, he's dying. It basically says like he is not, you can't save him with like cure spells. Like he is basically on death's door when you meet him.
Well, he's a 5th level magic user. You can try to like heal him like through normal means, but that won't work. But it does say like you could cast a cure critical wounds, which is like, okay. Like, do you have access to that through a scroll, a neutralize poison, and cure disease? So that's how you could restore him to health that way. But his mind's gone.
Yeah, and he is the leader of a party of adventurers from the hold of the Sea Princes sent by the Prince of Monmerg, which is Monmerg is mentioned in the 1980 the World of Greyhawk that was released in 1980, so it does have some history already. That's not just like a name that they made up when he was typing things.
Oh, that's cool. I didn't know that.
Yeah, so there's a little bit of history there. So if you want to, break out your Greyhawk books and look up where these people come from, it's actually like a thing that existed before. So it does say that the Sahuagin basically tortured Elmo, and he resisted the torture, much like Snake in Metal Gear Solid 1. And he never told them about the items in room 18, which is where the water-breathing stuff exists. And it also says the Sahuagin have kind of spared him because he's so emaciated, he's not even going to be, like, worth eating. And you can talk to him and basically get all of this stuff from him. Right. Although he doesn't know... Let me see. I don't think he knows it's in room 18. He just knows it's somewhere.
He will, once his memory has been jogged. So you have to, like, keep talking to him. Like, you sort of have this interesting interaction with him, and you as the DM playing Elmo, and then the player characters of you being the sort of emaciated, sort of very on death's door person, and then you're trying to, the PCs are trying to get information about the dungeon out of him, and he, sort of kind of, I mean, there's just this, he doesn't really spell it out, which is kind of weird too, but it's really this sort of role-playing opportunity to sort of go through and have this guy, try to tell you where these items are, wherever it is. Like, you have to sit there and describe, oh, well, do you remember this level 1 thing that was here? And there was all this stuff. It's like, oh, yeah, no, I remember that. You sort of have this opportunity to do all of that. And again, like, you can't really heal him. I mean, you can heal him, but, you need an 8th level magic user or a cleric or something. But, it's a really interesting thing. Because it does say once you jog his memory, he'll tell you where it's at. But, it's sort of this interesting kind of fun role-playing experience with this poor, emaciated, almost completely insane magic user. So it's pretty cool.
It does also spell out his motivation, like, very clearly. It's like he is a level 5, magic user. He is from this place. Their goal was to get, like, discover what was going on at the lizard bed. So they're kind of on the same mission that you were, but with just different outcomes.
Yeah.
So yeah, I do like that interaction. I think that's like the best part of the upper levels is talking to Elmo. It does note that like when the time comes, you should have Elmo grasp the arm of the nearest character with surprising force, stare at him intently, and gasp, remember metamorph, and then fall dead.
It's great.
So that is we will discover later, that is the activation word for the Wand of Polymorph that is hidden in room 18.
Yep.
Which is, I suppose you could polymorph yourself into a fish or a seal or something that can breathe underwater.
Yeah, I think that's kind of the intent. I think.
Yeah, it says you cannot basically resurrect him because his constitution is 0. So, like, he can't be resurrected.
Yeah, and even if it's like, it's really, I don't know, it's kind of a weird thing. I also, like, I understand, like, you don't want this 5th level magic user sort of, hanging out with you. But, yeah, even if you were to bring him back, like use the cure critical wounds and cure disease and neutralize poison and all of that stuff, you would need a heal wish or alter reality spell. So something of the 9th level to basically turn him, get him to remember who he is.
Yeah. And it does go through it. There is, let's see, there's 4 paragraphs on the next page. It's like, in the event he's magically restored somehow, even though this module clearly doesn't want you to restore him completely, here's like what you should do and what he'll do, and he'll remember everything if he's magically restored, and he'll tell you all of the stuff, and he'll say there's 4 other party members. There was a male fighter, human male fighter, a dwarven fighter, and an elven magic user thief, and a human female cleric. So yeah, it's just kind of funny that like we did talk about the verbosity of verbosity, is that a word? We did talk about the verbose writing of this author, and it's just funny that it's like, you'll never be able to bring this person back. On the off chance you do, here's 4 paragraphs about it.
Right, yeah. It's sort of like, just let him die. I mean, if the player characters get all weird about it, then, sorry, the cure, that isn't enough to bring him back. It's like, it's fine.
There's also another macabre detail I want to talk about here. The larder.
Oh, God.
Go in this room, and it's like a horror movie of just like corpses hanging from the wall that the Sahuagin are. Carcasses hanging on hooks. There's a medium-sized octopus, 2 giant eels, a male dwarf, a male human, and I'm not going to try to say that word.
Ixtwell or something like that.
Yeah, I think that's like a future Kyle that's reading that. What is that exactly?
Stop time.
This is a monster from the original monster manual on page 55. It is a intelligent manta ray that has clerical powers, and sometimes they're vampiric. It is pronounced Ixitzachitel. There's no way I'm going to remember how to pronounce that, so apologies in the future if I say that word wrong. Back to the show.
Time begins to move.
And the dwarf and the human are from Elmo's party. So they basically like killed them, and then they're slowly eating them. Like hang them on the wall, and they're slowly eating them.
And basically the bones of the corner are the other people of the adventuring party.
Yeah, so another thing I wanted to talk about, one of the guest rooms, it does mention that the open space by the south wall of each room will eventually contain a luxurious seaweed bed. And I was like, does that mean an actual bed made out of seaweed, or like the way we would use like a bed of seaweed, just like a bunch of seaweed?
Yeah, I don't know.
I think later on it's like a bed of seaweed and they sleep in it. But
yeah, it's kind of one of those weird details of like, do I really need to know that they have really nice beds to sleep in? It's like, I don't know, whatever. It's fine.
I do like that detail that eventually it's going to be a luxurious seaweed bed, but it's like there could be a little more description of what that actually means, because a bed of seaweed is multiple things in this instance. All right, so I am just going to skip to the secret room 18, and we're going to talk about all of the stuff that's in here.
Yeah, this is where you need to go.
So it's a secret room, so you have to find this room. So it's not, you're not just going to walk around and get all these items. You have to actually find the secret room. There's a leather cloak of the manta ray, a human-sized plate mail it's a plate mail +2. There's a chain mail +1, 2 shields +1, a shield +3, a spear +2, a +1 luck blade. All the wishes are gone. There is a four instances of a potion of water breathing, and ring of protection, ring of free action, ring of invisibility, ring of delusion. So there's a bunch of stuff in here, and this is like the loot from Elmo's party, essentially. Like, they came prepared, and you didn't. Your party didn't. So you have to loot all their stuff.
Yeah, his party was like 5th level, and you're like 3rd.
His party was 5th level, and your adventurer started out looking at weird lights in a mansion, and his party was like, go find out what's going on with the Lizardfolk. Here's all of this resources. So it makes sense. It fits in the world. And then it has Elmo's spellbook in here, which also includes water breathing if someone can cast 3rd level spells.
Yeah, you need a 5th level magic user.
And then there's more cleric scrolls. Page 19, I just need to talk about this art. There's art on page 19 of I'm just going to call her an 80s rocker chick.
Yeah, it's Joan Jett looking at...
Yeah, it looks exactly like Joan Jett.
She's basically going through all of this stuff.
Yeah, an 80s rocker woman just going through all this treasure. And it's like the hairstyle is so 80s.
Yeah, rocker chick 80s. He goes on to talk about how invisibility doesn't really work underwater.
Yeah, it talks about like you'll be displacing the water and the Sahuagin can still see you, which is like, I guess it's one of those like applying logic to magic situations that D&D always runs into.
Yeah, and you're kind of like, well, okay, yes, I guess.
Like, oh, well, you're technically invisible, so your eyes you can't see because your eyes light's not hitting your lenses in your eyes, so you can't see anything.
Right.
It's like the intersectionality of magic and rational logic you often come up with. You can only go so far.
Agreed. Like, it's one of these things of like, well, this is such a deadly adventure that to me it's like, why not just let invisibility work like invisibility? Like, why are you really hampering stuff this much?
It's funny too, because sometimes in D&D that adds to the world building, and it's like, okay, let's think about a magical culture that can send people messages magically. That's basically just the telegram. Like, what does that do to a culture?
Right.
Or like, what is it like if druids can just call water and water your crops? Like, what does the world look like?
Or when a cleric can just cast, create food.
Right. Like, the whole purpose of one of the whole purposes of Eberron, and one of the reasons I like that is like that setting is because it is about like if magic existed, what it would do to the world, like the ecology of the world.
Right.
Like it exists as this thing. It just assumes that people could do that. But sometimes when you run into the intersection of reality and magic, you can keep going until you have to like go until it's just a little silly, but not too silly.
Yeah. Which
is like, I think kind of like where maybe the not being able to be invisible underwater is a little too silly.
Yeah, it's sort of, so, both of us really love the anime free run. And it's one of those things of like, well, magic existed for a long time. Hadn't they adjusted the invisibility spell? Because like in free run, you have a lot of, research into magic, and then they change, the magic becomes better and better as time goes on because people research it and then make it better. And so you think like, well, couldn't they have just made it so the invisibility spell then works underwater? Because like it's, in the end, you can't see through it. It's just making you see through it. So, they could just think about like, well, the magic has gotten better, so the invisibility sport works like normal underwater.
Yeah, or there's different types of magic as technology, right? You wouldn't just be like, well, that's just how invisibility works forever. Like you kind of... it actually, so page 21, I did forget about this. It tells you, page 20, room 21, it does actually tell you what a seaweed bed is. This is the first example in the text of a seaweed bed. In this case, quite a small one designed for a single male Sahuagin. So it's like this weird thing where seaweed is anchored and it's growing to the floor, and it's dense because they sleep in them, essentially.
Okay. I mean, that's fine. I think there's a certain amount of like interesting world building that you want to have with that, but I don't know like how much. I don't know. It's interesting, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I do like that it differentiates them, and it's like, hey, they're turning this into a living place. They are installing beds. Moving on.
Yeah, on page 20, they talk about the 8 Sahuagin and then the slaves. Basically, there's like a big hall where they're all being sequestered to like, well, not sequestered, or basically they're indentured, or I don't know how you want to say it. They're doing the renovations.
Or sorry, you're talking about Sahuagin.
So there's 8 Sahuagin and then there's 10 slaves.
Right, sorry.
Yeah.
Okay. Gotcha. That's right. All right, so the next thing on page 21, I do want to talk about this because there's a thing I want to bring up that So we're on level 2 now, and this is where we start running into way too many Sahuagin. We start running into rooms where your players are going to look in the room and be like, no, that's too many. So you run into the females' quarters. It says there are 37 adult Sahuagin females in here and 15 hatchlings. If it were not for the fact that these creatures are evil, this would be quite a pleasant domestic scene. Wives gossiping, children playing under the supervision of an adult, and so forth. Women be gossiping. What
do Sahuagin women gossip about, Kyle?
I don't know. Like, it just the want to gossip is just cross species.
Yeah, I mean it is the 80s, so we just assume.
Can't really blame the author too much, but we could look back at it.
That's pretty funny that it's like, but like, what did the Sahuagin gossip about? Like, well, when are we going to eat the hobgoblin? I don't know. Like, what are they? Did you hear that?
Especially
monkey is sleeping with somebody else? I don't know.
Especially because if we skip to page 22 and we look in the barracks, I just want to read this. There's 21 adult male Sahuagin in here. The other 14 all have daggers tucked into their harnesses, blah, blah, blah. These warriors are off duty and are carrying out various activities, talking, dozing, and watching their comrades, etc. So when men do it, it's talking.
Right.
But when women do it, it's gossiping.
Because the men don't gossip, Kyle.
The men are just hanging out. They're just being men.
They're just doing men stuff.
So I had to laugh out loud when I read it. It was like women gossiping. I'm like, okay,
fine,
whatever. 1983. Can't really yell at you too much for that. And then I go to the next page and it's like the men are doing the same thing, but when they do it, it's talking.
They're talking. Okay, we're not gossiping. We're talking. We're making battle plans. Okay.
And then in room 28, we have the lieutenant's quarters, which has a sentence here that made me stop and go, wait, what? Because like the text here, I do want to say the author's writing style is like it's a little dry and they tend to over-explain things. And occasionally when you're reading this module, you will read something and be like, what? So in page 28. Sorry, not page 28. In room 28.
Room 28, okay.
In one of the coffers, you will open it and there will be 12 fronds of seaweed. And it says, if Oceanus and or lizardmen are with the party, the last item will be recognized by them, and they will regard this as a very fortunate find. These are fronds of the plant Rapture weed.
Drugs.
Drugs. It's like loco weed from Dread, Isle of Dread.
Yeah, not marijuana. It's Rapture weed.
I don't care about any of the stuff on the next page.
Yeah, I mean, just to go on to the next page, it's just like a lot of Sahuagin. Like, just more and more. 21, 29. Oh, wait. Sorry. There's 21 in here and a lieutenant in another room. Then you get into the clerics' offices, and guess what? The Sahuagin clerics are very powerful. So there's even more Sahuagin in here. I think the idea is that you're sort of marking where all of these things are at, and that's kind of all you really want to be doing.
You're supposed to be counting, I think. Like, it's what it sounds like the beginning of the adventure, they want you to come back with a specific count. So, I mean, there might be players, well, obviously they didn't have an Excel document because it was 1983, but, marking out what's in each room.
We were using Symphony, Kyle.
They were using pen and paper.
Nope, there were spreadsheets. We had spreadsheets in 1983. My dad used a spreadsheet. There's spreadsheets. There were computers. There were spreadsheets.
Wow, fancy.
Lotus 1, 2, 3.
I just assumed spreadsheets were invented when I was born, Kyle.
Nope.
Not before.
My dad
Computers didn't exist before I was born.
My dad was one of the first people in, when was it? It was like 1980, and he bought a $5,000 computer, and it had a screen that was literally the size of, it was probably like 4 inches or something. And, it was so expensive, but he started using it, and he created all of his forestry stuff with it because there's a lot of statistics in there. And so, yeah, it's actually, and he used spreadsheets. He loves spreadsheets.
I remember my cousin, the first computer that they got in, I think it was the late 80s at this point, but he was super excited to be able to have a spreadsheet of his comic books and be able to like write down all the comics that he owns, which is like funny to think.
Yeah.
So there is like, it's okay. So in the temple page 24, room 37, we have like a little sometimes the author over describes things, and then sometimes they'll just say something, and I'm like, wait,
I forgot about
explain
this.
that. Like, so it says there is a rather nasty ceremony taking place on the north of the temple in front of a solid block of white marble. And it's like, what nasty ceremony? Are things like, what do you mean by nasty ceremony? Like, I get the Sahuagin are evil, but like you did 4 paragraphs on the previous page about what happens if you resurrect Elmo, even though that's like basically impossible. But then we just are like, a rather nasty ceremony is here. I don't know. Maybe it's the way British people speak that I don't understand what that means, but I wanted more information here.
They're setting the stage, I guess.
Yeah, it goes on to kind of talk about like there's a huge white shark 20 feet in length, like circling above and stuff. But like, what exactly makes this nasty is what I want to know.
There's obviously it goes on to explain it, but it is funny that the first thing is like, there's a nasty ritual going on here. And it's like, you're doing description, so maybe describe it.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the next page is describing it in a way, but it just, like, I stopped and read that. It's just, I don't know, it just seemed out of place. Maybe it's an editing thing. But yeah, it just talks about what's going on in this temple. There's like 4, there's actually sacrifices hung up in here.
Yeah, so like there's a 5th level priest. There's a 5th level priestess, and then there's 4th level priestesses, but I can't figure out how many there are. So it's like, it's a pretty nasty little encounter, because you have a giant shark that's eating basically the little Sahuagin who don't measure up to the physical capabilities of the real Sahuagin.
Right, okay. Right. So I'm just looking at this again. Okay, scratch what I said about it being a nasty, not describing it. It does describe it probably too much.
Yeah.
I was wrong.
Yeah, no, so there's a description. I guess we should go back. So basically there's a description that just says like, hey, there's a nasty ritual here. And it's kind of like, well, you can't just say there's a nasty ritual and then not explain it. And then it goes on to explain the ritual and what's going on in here, but it's not in the box text. So it's not in box text.
Right.
And instead of saying,
it's like
like
confusing, yeah.
It sort of gives you these players this like weird teasing that you're like, well, why are you teasing me with this? Why don't you just tell me what it is? And it does, and you can at that point, which is kind of like, why not just put that in the box text?
Right, and there's like a lot of stuff going in here. I think the huge white shark that's 20 feet in length will probably give your party pause.
Yeah,
to want to not go in here.
Yeah. I mean, I think I would probably take one look at that and go like, oh, they're murdering Sahuagin babies? Like, they're doing our job for us. That sounds great.
But we know the Sahuagin are capable of love.
We do, but fuck
them.
them.
But they're also horrible, evil creatures.
Fuck them. They're eating people. Fuck them.
They're eating people. Yeah, that's true. They are. Yeah, you see the larder and you're just like, okay, maybe we should just kill everyone. All of them.
Yeah, we're gonna be like, okay, so this like we know where they're, you're mapping it out. Like, we know where these clerics are. We know that they have a very nasty ritual. We know where the high priestess normally lives. We've mapped all that out. We look at the temple and we go like, no, absolutely not. They're killing their own babies. That sounds like a super good idea that I don't need to be involved in. Plus, we need less Sahuagin. Like, keep on adding, like I said, more Sahuagin. We need less Sahuagin, so let them kill themselves. That's great.
Okay. So this is where we kind of get to, I think this is like one of the bosses of this on the next page. 27, the 4-armed. So I do want to say on page 27, when we get, like, before you get to the actual throne room, there is a really cool description of a formerly Lizardfolk, the Lizardfolk deity, Sahuagin, that like the statue was disfigured and stuff now that the Sahuagin have taken it over, and they've desecrated it. Yeah, they destroyed the remainder of the statue. Yeah, so basically they broke up the statue. It tells you see a giant carved out statue head, and then it claims that there's a 10 foot high statue that they were destroying, and then the Baron of the Sahuagin interacted with them and was like, hey, I want that as a trophy. Stop destroying the statue and keep the head. So only the head is still around. So some weird box text here on the throne room in room 42. On the throne sits a huge Sahuagin, a real monster. You can see this creature has 4 arms.
Yeah, because the other ones aren't monsters at all. They're just kind of like minor things. They're not really monsters. This is a true monster.
Yeah, on the throne sits a huge Sahuagin, M dash, a real monster. They even broke out the M dash for this. So yeah, that's I guess an interesting. You're not. I don't think at this point you're just looking at stuff. I don't think you're supposed to fight this guy. I think it's a bad idea to fight any of these things on this level.
Yeah, we're still on level 2. We're not even down to level 3 yet. Yeah, I think the best idea for that is like, oh, yep, that's the throne room, that giant evil-looking monster. That's going to be someone else's problem.
It does, a number of things cannot be seen. There's like a weird thing about what you can see in here. Oh, yeah, so it kind of tells you stuff that's going on in the throne room. One of the examples that it gives is this so... Number 6, partially concealed by the line of 3 elite guards are 2 more Sahuagin, both unarmed. One is a female from Area 24, the other an elite guard from Area 40. The female has accused the elite guard of serious misconduct, and the case has been brought to the Baron for trial and judgment. In the event of the proceedings being halted abruptly for an attack on an intruding party, these 2 will bury their differences temporarily and fight just as ferociously as the others. So she's like reporting him to HR? What is happening?
Yeah, the Baron is I guess if the Baron is HR, you're reporting it to HR, and like who knows what the serious misconduct of, it doesn't really matter.
Yeah, I just think the word serious misconduct in this instance is like, maybe it's a British way of saying something, but when you say serious misconduct, I just think of like talking to HR at work or something.
That's a very British thing to say, serious misconduct.
Yeah, we did talk about in Sinister Secret of Saltmarsh, there's an entire page where the author's like, by the way, I'm going to talk like a British person and it might be kind of weird. So we have run into multiple instances of that in this adventure. So it does at least give you a description in the throne room of like what happens if the players just like watch what's going on in there. Which, like, I do run into some issues with that in D&D where people are like, yeah, I look in this room for 30 minutes. And I was like, man, I have to figure out what these monsters are doing while you're watching them for 30 minutes. At least this gives you something. So I do like that.
It also says, don't let them get away with it for too long. Well, I sort of love the Baroness part. So there's a sleeping quarters of the Baroness. There's a whole description of her being very mad. This is the Baroness in full cry. She's standing angrily, full cry, which is also a British thing of saying she must be very angry. She's standing angrily over her maid, the latter on her knees, hands and knees, accusing her of stealing a single gold earring, which was actually in the throne room. So, like, she's accusing her of stealing this thing that she dropped, which is just kind of like, if you didn't know that they were evil before, they're like super mean to each other because like they're accused them of things that, they didn't even do.
Yeah, Karen's in here yelling at the maid for no reason, and it's her fault.
Yeah, Karen is in here yelling at the maid.
Sahuagin Karen.
So that's kind of amusing. And then on page 29, there's a picture of the Baroness berating a maid, which is sort of amusing. And I guess before we get to level 3, I do want to point out that, all these rooms have a crap load of treasure. Like, there's treasure everywhere. There's so much treasure. So, if you can somehow steal some of it, that's great. But, like, that should not be your priority. But they do have a ton of... In all of these rooms with all these millions of Sahuagin, there's a ton of treasure.
Right. I think the author might be trying to tempt you as well. It's like, oh, you go in the room and there's 100 platinum pieces and a gold necklace and all this stuff. But it's like, do you want to spend time grabbing it or doing your mission?
Right.
So I think that temptation, I think the author's tried to provide tension there. Okay, here's another, possibly another Britishism. So page 29 in the Baron's sleeping quarters, it talks about, there's a spear. It says, the spear is a normal spear, though the players might believe the presence here means it is special in some way. Don't gratuitously disabuse them of this.
Okay. Do not disabuse them of it.
I've never used that word. Disabuse. To free from a falsehood or misconception, to set free from mistakes, to undeceive, to disengage from fallacy or deception, to set right. It's just weird as well because it's like don't disabuse them, so it's like almost like a double negative in a way. I've never heard that word. I had to look that up. Maybe British people say that, but that's a new one for me. There's more Rapture weed in here as well.
And a crossbow +3.
Crossbow of accuracy.
Yeah.
And then we get to level 3, where there's a lot of Sahuagin here.
If you didn't think there were a lot of Sahuagin before, wait till you get to the 3rd floor.
Yeah, so we talked about the barracks before where it said it can fit a lot of Sahuagin. This is the actual barracks where they're at now, because this is one of the flooded levels.
Yeah, it's like, oh, this is room for 60 of them. Those 60 are now down here.
In the torture chamber and dungeon, room 50, you do find a victim that is on a rack. He's a male Lokatha warrior called Borgus. And he doesn't try to betray you. Yes. My first question is, does this guy betray you? And then I looked and he doesn't. And there's actually kind of a sad story about he's concerned about the fate of his giant eel companion, which he saw forced into one of the cells. And then you go into the cell later and it's like dead.
Yeah, it's in the cell and it's completely dead.
And it's described in like a really morbid way. In fact, the eel has hastened its own death by vainly battering at the wall and door. Now it hangs bloated and distended in the cell water and occupies a considerable amount of available space. So he's like concerned about his companion, and you go in there and it beat itself to death trying to get out.
Yeah, yay, cool.
It's like very, it's very morbid. There's another ally here in one of the cells in the dungeon.
Can I also point out that he says, know that the water in this cell is discernibly rancid, as the giant eel's corpse has started to decay. This will be obvious to any marine creature present as soon as the cell door is opened, a fraction, and whether a human can detect it or not. But it was like, and Borgus will be noticeably upset by the discovery of the death of his companion.
Noticeably upset.
Yeah, noticeably upset. Like, okay, like
I do love the visual of someone stuffing a giant eel into a prison cell. Like that is kind of funny.
Yeah.
But it does feel bad when you
and it is very British to say like noticeably. He could be upset, but he's noticeably upset.
Yeah, no, that means that's 11 out of 10.
Yeah.
So one of the cells is Kish, who is a Triton, who is also someone that can help you out. On the next page, 32. Area 53 is the arena. In my note, I just wrote, the arena has so many things in it. WTF.
On really important occasions, over 200 Sahuagin can sit here.
Yeah, so basically you go into the, like, Roman Colosseum where they have fights and stuff, and it's just filled with Sahuagin. So at the present, there's only 55.
Only 55 Sahuagin.
But I can seat 200. Like, there's no way... Even if you go in there and fight, like, you can't fight these. You just can't. There's no way.
And you got to remember also that, like, the Sahuagin are going to call more Sahuagin from all the other areas. So, like, if you look at the map, you know, the barracks are right next to there or whatever. And so then, like, they're going to call the barracks. So then, like, all the ones for the barracks are going to show up as well. So it's like, okay, now there's 110 Sahuagin. What do you do? We slit our own throats.
I have to say, as a DM too, I would, if I was running this, I'd be like, yeah, there's a 55, and if my players were like, yeah, I just go attack him, I'm like, oh my god, I have to run a combat with 55 Sahuagin and 10 players and what was it, 14 Lizardfolk, and
at that point you're just like, they all drop their weapons and they attack you with 4 bite attacks and everything else. We're just killing you because you're just an idiot at this point.
Yeah, I mean, considering older D&D is played more like a survival game, I highly doubt players were like, I want to kill them all, but you never know. But I would be fearful that a fight would come here because I wouldn't want to run that type of thing.
Yeah, right next there is barracks. There's another barracks. Like there's 20 warriors here, 30 warriors there. So it's like, oh yeah, you start the fight with 55, but at the end, you have 120.
It does tell you, like, there's a lot of description about, like, what happens if you enter either part of the arena. Like, one of the parts it says, if the characters move properly and at their best speed, they will be able to reach either set of stairs up to level 2 without being intercepted. So it's like saying, hey, if you get seen, you could actually, like, get out before the Sahuagin get to you. But it also talks about, like, you're going to have trouble surviving here if you are dumb.
I mean, like I said before, what you're really going to be wanting to do is come down, you know, into these different sections for a little bit and then come back up. And then when it turns night, you're going to want to leave that first level. And then, you know, and the Sahuagin are going like, what is going on here? There's some group of people coming down here and they're like doing stuff. And, you know, and then you have to decide like, well, how much of this, you know, you and the players and the DM have to decide like, how much of the shenanigans can I pull off before they just are like, oh man, they're just coming into the first level and we're just going to now camp out there with 100 Sahuagin, and then it's like the party shows up and they're like, that's a lot. And then they just leave or they get slaughtered or whatever. Like there's a whole, you have to sort of, as the DM and the players have to sort of like decide how much time you can really spend here. You have to keep on giving them clues of like, oh, the Sahuagin now know that you're going up to level 1 and resting, so there's like, you would want to run this with some kind of like time limit based on how much of your presence has been detected by the Sahuagin.
And one thing I just wanted to know, in one of my games, I did a like little section that was like an underwater world, and there's a bunch of underwater stuff in the game in Gem Cutter.
Yeah, oh no, I remember.
Yeah, and when I was running that, there is a Forgotten Realms book. I forget which one it is, but it has like merfolk in it, and it talks about like underwater adventuring. And one of the things that really stuck with me is it's like, you need to not think like merfolk, when they construct things, they think about it in a 3D space without gravity in the same way that like there's no roof, there's no floor to them. And there's really none of that design in any of this dungeon, even though the Sahuagin are like making it theirs. Like all of the rooms you run into, it's like, yeah, it looks like a normal room. It's just filled with water. There's a dresser and then there's a bed. It doesn't talk about like stuff being on the ceiling or, like it being a full, it loses like a lot of verticality in a way that I'm very surprised by.
Yeah, even that picture where I was talking about the Baroness berating her maid, it still looks like it's a normal everyday room.
Right, you could drain the water out of the bottom 3 of these, and your players wouldn't notice.
Yeah, even the picture that's on there on page 34, you don't have any idea like, oh, that's underwater. They're still standing on the floor, like they have their feet on the floor. There's
some bubbles, but there's no indication. If you just showed me that photo, I would just think it's not underwater. And yeah, I get that this is a thing that they're fashioning for themselves, but it would be nice, especially in the bottom area where they've done a lot of construction stuff, to like make it that way where there's more verticality. And it seems like it's being transformed from a place that people that walk on land go to, versus the only indication you get that in there is the seabeds. But I would have just liked to have like some details of stuff on the ceilings and walls, and I don't know, just like make it a little more interesting.
Yeah.
But that stuck out to me when I was designing the underwater stuff, because I never really thought of it that way. Lieutenant's quarters, whatever. There were so many Sahuagin here. Here's my notes. There are so many Sahuagin here. This is for page 35.
Yeah.
There's so many Sahuagin here. Why are there so many Sahuagin? Jeez.
There's just so many Sahuagin. Like, so then we get to the drill hall. Guess what's in the drill hall, Kyle?
68 Sahuagin?
68 Sahuagin.
Yeah. Which is like, this is what they're going for, right? They want you to be like, oh god, there's so many, that's an actual army. But yeah, there's 68 Sahuagin, and it just, every single room you go into, there's like 11 patrolling warriors, and just, there's so many Sahuagin in the bottom part of this. But that's basically the last room, because we have concluding notes on page 36. It's this dungeon, it's not really like you go in and you fight the final boss and you get the loot and then you leave. It doesn't have that cadence. You're supposed to get to the bottom and be like, oh my god, there's so many Sahuagin, let's get back and tell them.
Yeah, and then you sort of have to take the map that you've gotten from the Lizardmen. Hopefully, you've had the Lizardmen be your friends, and then you sort of add on to whatever the new stuff that you know about. You give a rough estimate as to, what's in each part and where the big bad guys are and all that stuff. And then you hand that off and say, have fun.
And you get concluding notes. A house will be set aside for them, the party, which they could use rent-free whenever they return to the town. So you get like a house.
And 10,000 gold.
And 10,000 gold, which you should be able to buy a good house with anyways. So I think a weakness of this module, and one thing I noticed, so this module is printed in the Ghosts of Saltmarsh compilation, and one of the major changes that they made, so this, after the concluding notes, it says there's a full scale, like 2 weeks afterwards, there's a full scale invasion on the fortress, and it kind of like tells you what happened. And in the 5th edition version, it gives you like a kind of like a mini game of like your players get to go on that on that battle and like assists, and it tells you like depending on how well you did and how many things you scouted, like you get points for how much of the like did the Sahuagins win? Did you win? Like it kind of goes into that. This adventure is just like, yeah, you tell them about it and you get a house. Don't worry about it. They're going to deal with it.
Yeah, they'll deal with it. Oh, that's cool. Thanks. Thanks for dealing with it. Yeah, it's a, I guess since we're at the end of it, I would definitely say this was a disappointment just because the other two are really so good.
Yeah, this was hard to read. I had trouble reading
it. It's very hard to read. I personally took way longer than I've ever had to read a dungeon before, and that was including like the hill giant or the giants against the giants, which took me a really long time too, because obviously it's very dry and everything. But this was just like, there really isn't a lot of interesting things. There's a couple things that were pointed out, and I think out of the adventures that we've talked about, this is probably one of the shorter ones, that because there just isn't that much to sort of talk about. There's just a lot of Sahuagin, and the novelty is survive the Sahuagin, report back to the base, they will deal with it.
One of the main pillars of D&D is exploration, but when you go into this, you just like you're with all of those Lizardfolk, and you're probably not going into room being like, I look at everything, I want to see if like the drawers are trapped and what's in there, and I want to pick all the locks. You're like, I look at this room, there's 5 Sahuagin, okay, I write that down and I move on. Like it does it the way that you explore is like way different in this, and it's.
Yeah, and the other thing that's a little...
The way this plays is way different than anything else we've read, I think.
Yeah, and since there's no real rules, even in the module, and in, about like perception checks and stealth checks and, all of that stuff, because that's what you're going to want to be doing. Like your party's going to want to be really stealthy. There's no real conduit to do that. I mean, there's some interesting things that you could do. There's some mechanics that could be really interesting to make that easier. But you're sort of playing this game of like, how long can I be down here into the Sahuagin and figure out what's going on? And I think that's the novelty, and I don't know how novel that is. It's interesting, I guess.
Did the people that played this, when the DM is like, yeah, you get to control 14 Lizardfolk and 10 humans, was there like a celebration where people are like, oh, I get my own like small army, that's cool? Like,
yeah,
I don't know. To me, that just sounds like it's annoying to run like mechanically.
Yeah.
But maybe at this time people thought that was a really novel, and it's like playing a war game, I guess, with your little army of Warhammer units.
Yeah. I don't know. I guess you could also split things up, because like, if you don't figure out the whole water breathing thing, you're going to have like certain characters and certain people, and like maybe the lizardmen are exploring some stuff while you're exploring other stuff. And I don't know how you do all that, because if you don't figure out the water breathing piece, it's going to be really difficult to scout any of this. And in the end, really, like, you want to have invisible thieves running around looking at all this stuff, making notes, and then coming back, and that's really all you want. So like, there's a version of this module where like, the characters that are running thieves do all the work and the lizardmen do the work, and that's it. We make sure that those guys have water breathing. They go down, fish around in the second level. They figure that out, and then they decide whether they can get down into the third level. I guess they get down to the third level before, all your water breathing and invisibility and, move silently and all of that stuff sort of, you finally get discovered or whatever, and then you jet. And half the party is just like, well, we're here at the first level, just waiting for the thief to come back,
Yeah.
I don't know. It seems like, or the ranger or whoever, you'd have like a couple of people who have water breathing that can do that really successfully. But, do you really want your fighter and plate mail swimming around trying to figure out how, to scout things? It's just weird. It's just a little strange.
Yeah, I mean, I do commend it for doing something different, but I was a little disappointed that, because I really did like the Sinister Secret of Saltmarsh. It's, I think, one of the best adventures we've read, and then kind of just ending with this. It's I don't know. I definitely wanted something else.
And it is weird, and I also think like it is. You want a scouting mission to scout out this area, and you're asking for this sort of giant party to do it, and it's like, dude, I'm just a fighter and a plate mail, and like the other dude's like, I'm just a magic user, man. Like, what do you want me to do? I'd scout this stuff out. Are you crazy? I mean, maybe if they have like magical, like when you have that eye, you have like an eye you can send down there or something. I don't know.
My impression of this is I would do a lot of rewriting if I was running this. Yeah. Like a lot.
Yeah.
I did look at the 5th edition one. It seemed pretty close. I actually don't remember if it has the same amount of Sahuagin in it or not.
Yeah.
But it seemed like it was pretty similar.
I mean, I think that it is interesting, and it's not a bad module. It's just that it's considering the other two, this one's a disappointment in comparison, because the other two have these really great twists of like, well, there's the place is not actually haunted, and you have to go onto a ship, and then you got to figure that out, and that's like, oh, that's really interesting. We probably haven't ever done that before. And then the other one is like the lizard men aren't bad. They're actually your friends and can be your friends if you don't mess that up.
Yeah. The only twist in this one is Elmo and the other adventuring party.
Yeah.
Which is not
much of a twist.
Yeah, I guess the actual twist is that you go there and 3 of the levels are sunken. That's the actual twist in this.
Yeah.
Because that's the thing that you don't know. But that isn't just that they don't really do. I don't feel like much is done with that.
Yeah. And the number of Sahuagin. And it's funny reading it where it's like you spend so much time describing all the things and all the little rules and everything else in the world, and you're not explaining like, well, what you really want the party to do is just scout things out and not attack this room of 55 Sahuagin. So maybe you should have, instead of putting rules, to me it's like you should have rules for how often you get detected or how easily you're going to get detected. I don't know. This seems like that's a more important thing to me than this grisly ritual that has 4 paragraphs of what it does. And it's like, well, the party really is just going to look in there and go like, screw this. So
yeah, no thanks. Oh, there's a 20-foot shark in that room? Yeah.
Like, are you kidding me? Well, I'm not doing anything in there. And there's a bunch of priestesses and there's a bunch of little Sahuagin. And the shark just ate one of them. Cool. Yeah, great. Shut the door. We're good.
Yeah, I think this would be difficult to run. I don't know. I enjoyed it, but it was hard to read, and I think I would make a lot of changes if I was running this. And reading the 3 in a row, I would not have guessed it ended this way. Like, I thought it was going to be like, Snake, you must go destroy the Metal Gear type of mission, and it wasn't.
Yeah. I think like a better thing would have been, you destroy the whole point of this is destroy one of the idols of the god, and the god, like, they lose favor from their god because of it. So attacking them is going to be easier or something like that, rather than just do reconnaissance.
Yeah, I mean, now that I think about it, in our campaign, the campaign that I ran to level 20, when I did the underwater thing that involved like Sahuagin and merfolk and stuff, it was a giant battle. But when I read it, I was like, hey, you guys need to go deal with, like, the general.
Yeah.
Like, that's how I read it. And it's kind of like a similar... Now that I think about it, there's, like, some similar things. I didn't look at this module before. I did look at that other Forgotten Realms underwater supplement. But I kind of expected that to happen instead of this.
Yeah, yeah. Like, go murder go assassinate the Baron or something. I don't know.
Yeah, like a sneaky mission to go kill the Baron or something. I don't know.
Yeah. But I will say, like, it's not terrible. It just the problem is the other two were so much better and so good that this one sort of is very lackluster.
Yeah, it's a little bit of a disappointing end. Do you have anything else to say about the ending? Because there's one thing in the appendix I want to talk about.
No, I'm good.
And that is Rapture weed. So in the appendix, magical items, page 44, Rapture weed, Submarinum Intoxicatus Morbido. So it has a Latin nomenclature for its name.
Oh, British.
So in the world of Greyhawk, we have Latin names for plants and animals. At least I think that's Latin. It's probably like fake Latin. So this says that it has... So it tastes good to marine peoples, and it's like mildly euphoric when you eat it. However, any land dweller who chews 3 or more frauds of the weed within a 24-hour period will become hopelessly addicted to the stuff and will exhibit all the horrible symptoms of addiction to strong narcotics. The addict will sell every last possession in order to purchase more of the plant. He or she will lie, cheat, steal, and even murder to obtain it, regardless of alignment or profession. The addict's death will occur in 3 to 6 months. The only known cure for this terrible condition is a neutralized poison, followed by exercise or heal, limited wish, or alter reality. What?
Yeah. So
you become hopelessly addicted to strong narcotics?
Yeah, it's magical crack, basically.
I do enjoy that it says, like, land dwellers it follows up and it says, like, some sages on the land do know about this, but, like, the marine animals have no idea that this happens to land dwellers. They're just like, you know, it would be like if I found out that, you know, eating tacos makes someone addicted to narcotics. Like, I wouldn't know that. I would just be like, it's a taco. It's fine.
Yeah, well, it's more like cigarettes. So, like, yeah, we just take this. It's like a nice little high we get. And land dwellers are like, this is fucking crack. And, like, I am now
I'm going to murder people. I'm lawful good, but I'm still going to murder people regardless of my alignment to get more.
I don't care anymore, man. Give it to me. It's also the most 1980s version of, like, drugs, right?
Oh.
Like, every single drug, yeah.
It's very like, if you touch a drug, you will become a berserk maniac, and you will only do that drug, and you will kill people even if you're lawful good.
Yeah, I mean,
like,
it's weed. Like, oh, this is weed. This is just like marijuana. If, like, smoke marijuana too many times, you like become addicted to it, and then you'll kill your parents. You're like, what? No.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, now I didn't really think about that. Yeah, this was a very 1980s view of that. That's really funny.
500 gold for a single frond.
Selling it to an assassin is certainly not a good act, and the DM should penalize the character concerned. Yeah, so that is a fun way to end this. I just wanted to talk about that Rapture weed because I was laughing when I read that.
That is brilliant.
All right, so Kyle, is there any closing statements that you have about the final enemy?
I don't. I mean, we discussed it in general about the conclusion and my thoughts. So
yeah, we kind of discussed in depth how we feel about this. This was a really cool. It was interesting reading like 3 modules in a row. The only one that we've done thus far was Desert of Desolation. They had 3. I think that was like a little stronger if I was going to compare them, but I really think the Sinister Secret of Saltmarsh is really special, and I totally understand like why a lot of people remember that.
Yeah, it's
that
great.
Module.
That module's great.
It's just I did not expect it to end this way, and if I was running this module, I'd have to do. I think I would change a bunch of stuff. All right, so join us next session where we will be reading Wildspace, 1990s Wildspace by Allen Varney. Make sure to follow us on your podcast app of choice and follow us on Blue Sky at adventuresgonemad.bsky.social. Subscribe to us on YouTube at youtube.com/@adventuresgonemad. Are you enjoying Adventures Gone Mad? If so, please leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. Did you play the final enemy? We want to hear about it. Contact us at adventuresgonemad@gmail.com and join us next time for Wildspace.
Oh, am I supposed to talk about that?
He gave me a pencil. It's in my pencils. What is this called again?
When they might mouse the first attack, not where.
Oh, I'll read that again. Discover how advanced are... What the fuck? Why can't I read? When I do this podcast, I can't read. Ixishachitel. Ixishachitel. Oh, this word is impossible to say. Ixishachitel.
Stop now.